What is up, guys? Welcome back to Wrench and Wrecked. Holy cow, did you guys bombard me with comments on this thing. Where we left off. Brand new Mikuni VM-9. Look, it even has gas. I just popped that off. Kicking it over. It's been doing the same thing it was right when I picked it up, where it doesn't want to start easily. Bombarded with comments, thank you for that. A million suggestions. Some, let me just go through and address real quick. Others, I appreciate the input. So far, here's where we're at. I picked this up at a swap meet. And if you've seen this and followed this whole build, I apologize, but I feel like there's a lot of people that chimed in on the last video that probably haven't seen any of the other ones. It's the internet, right? Everybody gets their opinion and everybody can critique and judge and give direction. I'm not knocking that. I appreciate the comments. I'll take all the negative ones with the positive ones. However, for those of you that haven't followed this build or are just tuning in, I picked this bike up pretty much exactly the way it sits now at a swap meet for dirt cheap. Mag was in there. We checked it for spark. It was sparking. I managed to get it fired up on the VM carb that was on it. This is a brand new VM38-9. This is the VM44 that came on it. It ran okay on this carburetor setup with the 44. It was just a pain to get started. So then we dove into it and basically started doing some problem solving. Intakes were leaking, all sorts of other stuff. And then, I don't remember what the reason was. For whatever reason, I pulled, it was leaking oil like crazy out of the rear cylinder. The rear rocker box gasket was leaking like a sieve right through here, running down, hitting the exhaust, burning off. The thing was smoking like crazy. So I pulled the top end off to go through and reseal it up. Then we saw the top of the pistons, because the cylinders were still on. They looked good. But while I had the rockers off, I was waiting on the gaskets anyway. I ended up pulling off the base cylinders, and the pistons were super scored, super scratched, not in good shape. So I ordered a fresh set of pistons and fresh set of rings, re-honed these, slapped them all back together, put it all back together, still had a leak, rear head came off again, went back on, fixed the intake leaks because we chased those down. Now it's all sealed up, buttoned up, working really well. In the course of doing that, I had a VM38. This is not a OG Mikuni, it's a knockoff. The Mikuni Kogyo, whatever. MIC on that side. Pulled a repop one. Got that one, went through that carb, unfreed it because that was also a swap meet carb. The slide was totally stuck. We soaked it, cleaned it up, got the slide free. Threw that one on, retimed the mag, set everything up. It fired up and ran perfect. One kick. I could consistently one kick this bike all day long. However, unfortunately, thought we were done. After a couple test rides, it started easy, it ran bad, and when I got back from the test ride, not the mag itself, but the mag base that goes into the cover here, came loose, and this thing was walking around. So there was like at least an 1/8 inch of play forward back on the mag setup. I didn't want to have to mess with it, but in order to tighten that up, you don't need timing walking around. So pulled this out, re-slapped it back together, tightened down the bolts on the mag base, put it back in, and we have not been able to get it to start up easily since then. Runs mediocre, got it fired up, and it would start, it would run, it would ride okay. Pilot jet was too rich. I'm going based on running, not starting, because these are two separate circuits, two different issues that I'm facing. With the timing where it's currently at, yes, it's a pain in the ass to start. I do not have a adjustable mag base, so it's going to be fixed timing on the magneto. But with the mag where it's at, when it gets started and runs, this thing runs like a top now with the needle changes and everything else on the Kogyo carb. On the old Mikuni we had on it, it ran perfect. With the brand new Mikuni, when I did get it fired up, the idle circuit was a little bit better. It's still a little rich on that end. That's got a 30. I think I'm down to, again, random size jet on that carb. It's a 22.5 0.75, which is really, really low. I thought I should be in like the 27 range, but if you go back a couple videos into the spark plug video, I kind of go over what those were looking like at idle when this thing was running. Now it's apart again. With the Mikuni on there, I got it fired up and I wrote it. It needs some tuning if I want to run that, but I don't really necessarily want to run that carb when I know that that one ran perfect and I tuned the needle and adjusted everything on that carb to run perfect. Once this bike is started, it is a one kick bike warm. Once you fire it up that first time, it's just the initial start cold that I'm struggling with. And yes, this is new to me. I've never done a mag bike, so there's going to be trial and error. I've never also done a Mikuni, so instead of doing one change, like going from points in a coil to a mag with a working carb, I'm also dealing with a carb that I'm not super familiar with. Everybody keeps saying throw a CV on it, throw this on, throw a butterfly. I have a plethora of carbs. You can only see the Harley on top of there, right behind those boxes. I've got 15 carbs over there. I'm familiar with butterflies, the Keen butterflies. I'm really familiar with the CVs. CVs are my favorite carb thus far, but I did want to try and keep this one consistent. The brand new Mikuni is a loaner from a buddy of mine, so it didn't cost me anything to have it here and try it. We're gonna put the other carb back on, but before we get into that, I do think it's time to finally get around to opening up the mag again, but replacing some parts and refreshing some things. A lot of people were saying in the comments, the spark plug wires, yes, they're old, they're oily, not good for that. I have a brand new set in the box that we're gonna make for this as well, but it's been starting and running, and with how well this actually runs while you're driving it, or while you're actually riding, it doesn't seem like an ignition or a weak ignition thing runnability-wise. Like I said, when it runs and rides, it is perfect. I have no qualms whatsoever. It's just that hard, cold start. So typically on a points bike, I will, even on a kick-only bike, I will run the advance kind of high. So I'll run it towards the, on the timing window. Instead of going right in the middle, I'll usually pull it to the backside just a hair. But I can get away with it on a kicker bike. On this, I'm fighting the carb, the choke circuit on this carb, and what the magneto wants. We had it dialed. I'm confident that everything is kind of working, but I think we're just shy on enough spark or enough output to consistently start cold. There's a lot of ways I could have approached this. If I wanted to tear this down and do a full rebuild and get everything freshened up and send the mag out and get that rebuilt and remagnetized or whatever else, this is a budget bike. At the end of the day, even with all the mag parts I just ordered, I'm into this for less than $300-400 bucks. I know there's a couple comments in terms of like cylinder pressure, do a vacuum test or a leak down test on it. Go to Harbor Freight, whatever. Get a leak down tester. I have leak down testers at the shop. I don't need to do it. This is freshened up. While it was apart, we put brand new rings and pistons in, like I mentioned a minute ago. But in terms of leak down and valve adjustments, I've gone through the valve adjustments. Honestly, I did check this after doing that little spit back out the carb constantly on the starting. I figured it might be the intake valve hanging open. I pulled it apart. Everything is absolutely perfect in the valve train end. So this is not a leak down test, but just to verify, I got the spark plugs in still. I'm just gonna rotate this over, hand over the intake so it's completely blocked. This should build vacuum as we come up. So now I'm holding the pedal down. This sucked my hand in. I can hold this here. My hand's stuck. I know it's hard for you guys to see, but hear it? So here we go, coming up on compression. The hand is tight stuck. I mean, it's solid. We are not leaking. The intake is not leaking. I pulled the intake out and reclocked the heads in a previous video because of an intake leak. That same test, you put your hand over the intake like that and rotate the motor over. If the rings are worn out or the intakes are leaking, it'll hold suction, but you're gonna lose it. It's the same thing as putting an actual leak down tester on it. Not as accurate, it's not gonna give you a numeric reading, but this thing is full of cylinder pressure, has plenty of it. which is why we're digging into the magneto now. Somebody else was asking about the petcock and the fuel flow. Was it getting enough gas? Okay, got a filter on here. The tank is 3/4 full. The first handful I was kind of reluctant on that. I didn't pre-fill it, but the last time I had this out, I actually stopped and topped off the tank. So yes, the angle of the petcock comes back forward instead of coming out the back. We can tweak and rotate that a little bit, but if we click this to the on position, nice trickle, reserve, nice trickle. There's no issue, especially for starting, in terms of it having fuel. Could I get a little bit more pressure out of this? Could I pull the petcock and clean the filter? Yes, that would probably help quite a bit. But again, rideability-wise, I had no issues with fuel starvation whatsoever, and this is 100% filling the bowl. In terms of the lean angle of this, here's the Mikuni as it sits on here. We're not spilling any fuel yet. Oh, I don't know how much gas is actually in here. But that was definitely one of my concerns, and something we might address at a later point. But I don't think, I know for a fact it's not spilling raw fuel into these cylinders based on the lean angle of this. So this carb is coming off. Other comments that stood out. You're kind of guessing at this point on what's wrong with this. You're right, I am. Had it running good, not running good. Had it starting easy, not starting easy. All of the different things and changes and alterations that I've made, it is running substantially better than it ever has before. Runnability, rideability is dialed. The starting part is not. To me, I look at those as two separate things. The bike can run perfect and not start. Likewise, the bike can start and not run good. That's what happened first. We had it running and starting easy until the first test drive, and then it was a disappointing day. But it started fine. So now we tuned the running circuit, still dealing with the starting circuit, which, in my honest opinion, that was my goal. I have all winter to kick this thing. 50-degree days are hard to come by in the Midwest. Well, not this year, apparently. Global warming, climate change, whatever the hell you want to call it, it's making it much easier to keep messing around with this thing through December. But that was one of them. In terms of carburetors, again, I have a plethora of them, but I want to get this dialed with the Mikuni. In terms of the choke circuit, what else was mentioned? There was a maybe half choke. It's a Mikuni, so you literally have choke off, choke on. There is no in-between on there. It's not technically a choke, it is an enrichener. I'm well versed in the Mikuni stuff. I've done them, I've run them on multiple bikes. I'm aware of how the circuits work. Am I the best? Absolutely not. Have I run one on a ironhead? Not until recently, and this went from going down the road, coughing, hiccuping, spitting, backfiring, wouldn't take throttle, to hammer it from dead stop, anywhere in the RPM band, anywhere in the range. It has power, it pulls, it doesn't hiccup, it doesn't cough, it doesn't sneeze, it doesn't do any of the other issues in terms of tuning. This bike is tuned, not this carb, but the one sitting over on the bench. That carb is dialed in for this motor. Starting is different, okay? On the fixed base mag, I keep seeing, try retarding the timing, retard the timing. Well, it's a fixed base mag, so I can pull timing out of this and retard it a little bit more, but then it gets locked there. Advance the timing. Well, if I advance it anymore, we're kind of at that threshold of wanting to kick back. When it coughs out the carb, I don't consider that necessarily a kickback like I do when you're rotating a motor over trying to find compression, and as you're rotating it over, it kicks back on the kicker. That to me is the kickback. That's typically where I know I need to pull timing out of the bike. When I adjusted the points, if you go back to the point adjustment video, I opened the points gap up to 18. I didn't change timing at all other than opening up the gap setting, and then it was kicking back like crazy. What else came up in the comments? A lot of people, a lot of supportive people. I appreciate all of you sticking through this whole build. I know a lot of you guys are waiting to see this thing get dialed. The other one, no carb filter or no air cleaner on the carb makes it harder to start. That could be true. If I had an air filter for this, I would have it on. I have this one And this backing plate for the 44, this was press fit onto the 40, that's not even the 44, but this is too big to fit on the 38 carbs, so I do not currently have an air filter. Gary from Siberian Cycles is going to be sending me one as soon as I can get to the post office and send some shirts out to him. So we will be trying that too. But in theory, I think I should still be able to get this fired up without the air cleaner on. If you're sick of this bike, I am too. I'm trying not to do much more on this. This is going to be just a disassemble on the mag. So the bike's going away. We're not even going to try starting this thing up or anything like that today. I don't think I have the crimpers. I don't think I forgot to bring those back from the shop for the spark plug wires anyway. But I want to go through this mag for the first time. Yes, we've had the lid off. Yes, we've adjusted timing. But I have a new coil for it, so a new condenser, and basically just do a tune-up on a magneto, and then we'll kind of spin it around and see what it looks like off of the bike, make sure it's sparking nice and hot. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it very much. There's a wealth of knowledge in the YouTube comment section, and that's probably one of the most resourceful things, I think, in today's modern age. Not just the videos of things, but the direct comments underneath the said videos. It's huge. It's huge. It's better than forums. It's better than anything else. It directly addresses individual things that people can watch and spot and see. So thank you. Please keep the comments coming. It's just so easy in the internet age to see something for the first time or instantly think you know all of the background details and everything else. I do not think I'm an expert by any means. I don't do this professionally. I'm just a guy drinking beers in the garage, wrenching around on these old things. But I've done enough ironheads to know what they need to start or not start on a standard ironhead. For me, this is new, and this is kind of what I find appealing about it. Get the Mikuni working. I don't want to put a different carb on. At this point, I'm invested on this. I need to get this working proper. Get the mags starting nice and easily. I know they work. I know this mag works. It's just a matter of why it's not starting cold. That's the problem. It's like a puzzle. I want to figure it out. And I will keep working on this bike until we get to that point. I know the kicking videos are redundant. I'm sick of making them. You're probably sick of watching them. But how do you show the issue being a kick issue, a kick-starting cold start issue? I can't do that without showing a process, right? Maybe I'll get lucky when the next video after rebuilding the mag, dropping that back in, maybe it will start first kick. Maybe it won't. I do not know. But I will update you guys on that as we progress. There's a couple more videos. This is kind of an in-betweener, so the one after this will probably be the mag disassembly on this bike. And I don't know how far we're gonna get. You guys are about 3 days behind, 4 days behind from when I'm filming this to what posts. So I guess we will be taking a break from this, digging through some swap meet stuff, going through this motor, all of these fun things. I do have another factory mag here that came out of this motor. It will go back with this motor eventually, but for the purpose of testing, we can kind of mess around with 2 instead of 1, which is why I have that. I just need a lid for those. Other than that, lots more videos coming your way. We're going to be slower on the holidays, so if I don't have a video coming out before that, I'm breaking up kind of the series in terms of what gets posted when, just based on the amount of comments and things I kind of wanted to mention on there. I've seen a ton of them. I haven't read through all of them yet, but holy cow, I did not expect that many comments on the last video when we put the Mikuni on. So thank you. Please keep those coming. Good, bad, does not matter. If not, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We will catch you guys on the next one.